Hello and welcome. Welcome to Everything is Energy and welcome to the Herbal Almanac. This is the first offering that I will be producing throughout the years to come. It's a seasonal offering within the Everything is Energy podcast, and it's devoted to herbal wisdom, traditional plant knowledge, and essentially grounded seasonal living. So in this episode and in the episodes to come, titled Herbal Almanac, we're going to explore the intersection of herbalism as well as ancient traditions, home apothecary practices, and the rhythms of the natural world through a blend of, practical herbal education and historical lore in sync with seasons and seasonal reflections, and also, everyday botanical care. And, this is a unique space within the Everything is Energy offering because it's bringing us into a more intimate relationship with the plants and the plant kingdom, essentially. It's not only as a remedy, but, I really experience plants as companions for living more closely with the earth, with the seasons, and with the quiet intelligence, the energetic intelligence that's woven through the natural world. So, we're going to be discussing seasonal herbal preparations, ancient traditions, nervous system support, dream herbs, home remedies. And let's go ahead and get started. My name is Lisa Marie. I'm so glad that you're here. This is the first episode of the Herbal Almanac under the Everything is Energy podcast, and we're going to discuss spring herbal flea and tick support. I'm going to be focusing on ticks because, in my experience with myself and with those that I support, ticks tend to have a little bit more fear around them. And also, they're a little bit more, they're a little bit harder to treat and harder to prevent, to be honest. So we're going to be looking at two different remedies today. One of them is going to be an herbal powder that you can use. And the remedies, I should back up and say that these remedies are, I would consider them safe I use them on my dogs. That's how I'm going to talk about this today, but they're also safe for human use. They involve herbal products as well as essential oils. So the caveat here, essential oils, I'm not gonna say go ahead and use them with cats because cats metabolize essential oils different than dogs. And so do kids, and so do pregnant moms. So all the usual, you know, cautions about essential oils and herbalism in general hold here within this offering. But, I have here next to me a couple of ingredients, and we're going to get started with this. This is an herbal powder. And you'll see that in this case, this stuff isn't grown here on the farm, but it's still natural and it's something that you can find online or in your local stores. And you're going to be wanting to find food grade diatomaceous earth. And it says food grade, it needs to be food grade in order for it to be safe for humans and dogs. This is one of the heavy hitters in this particular ingredient. And I am not promoting any brands here, guys, with whatever I'm doing here. I promote the farm where I'm growing stuff regeneratively and organically. Everything here is going to be organic, but this is just, the brand that I happen to have isn't the one that you need. But, food grade diatomaceous earth is one of the main ingredients in this particular powder. The other heavy hitter in terms of potency in tick prevention and treatment is neem powder. The third ingredient is a part of the powder that's not active, but it's essential is arrowroot flour or powder. And the arrowroot flour or powder really doesn't do much besides dissipate some of the intensity of the other ingredients and create a powder that is safe for, say, multiple times a day application to oneself or one's dog. So in order to make this powder, you're going to need those three ingredients. Head over to the blog page for this particular offering, or I'll give you a recipe for both the spray and the powder. But, essentially you're going to be using 2 parts diatomaceous earth, 1 part arrowroot, and 1 part neem. And so for this particular example here, this is a 1/2 cup food grade diatomaceous earth, a 1/4 cup arrowroot powder, and a 1/4 cup neem powder. Poured them all in here. I poured them all in here. I shook them together, and then I added my essential oils. And it's just that simple. This is shelf stable for years, and I keep it on the kitchen counter. And I'll share with you in a second how I use it on my dog. But let's think about what diatomaceous earth is doing to understand how and when and why we're going to be using it. Diatomaceous earth is a desiccant. It works mechanically by disrupting the sort of outer waxy coating of insects. And because it's a desiccant and it really dries things out, you're going to want to keep it away from human and animal mucous membranes, eyes, lungs, um, mouths. So it's really wonderful for you can um rub it on your dog, especially if your dog has long fur. You can put it on your dog's fur before you go for a hike in the woods. I will also share with you that I particularly use the spray as a preventative. I use this powder more as a insurance in tick removal. And what I'll do is grab a little pinch of the powder, find the spot where the tick is, and just coat that area. And I want to say 7 times out of 10, the tick removes itself, which is cool because if you've ever had ticks on dogs, the thing you want to always make sure is you get the head of the tick out. And that's hard to understand whether or not you've done it. And so I will use that and see if the tick will remove itself, monitor the dog, keep the dog close so that you can actually physically get the tick off the dog once it pulls its head out. But even if that doesn't work, you can use tweezers, remove the tick, and then I'll put, a pinch of this on that area, and that'll ensure that the tick's going to pull its own head out once that tick is gone. So this powder has those 3 ingredients, and then it has a fourth that is essential oils. And I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about some of the scientific research about one particular essential oil in when I talk about the spray. But for the purposes of this powder, you can use options such as cedarwood, citronella, geranium, lavender, lemon. You could also, peppermint is a popular one, clary sage is a popular one. Because, as I mentioned, I don't really use this as a preventative. I use it as a insurance with removal. I only use, I would say, you know, probably about 60 drops of essential oil in this, maybe 90. And I kind of just rotate through which essential oils of that list, and I'll put the list in the recipe for you guys. And so this is just something that you can keep under your kitchen counter and use when you find a tick attached. And before I go into the spray, I also want to put a pin in the neem powder. Neem has a long Ayurvedic history, and it's also pretty commonly used as an insect repellent. Um, But as with all things, some of this stuff is species specific. So again, I'm talking about people and dogs. And in this recipe, the arrowroot powder is just to kind of soften and make the powder more usable for when you need to use it. So let's move on to the spray. And the spray is something that I will apply a couple times a week. And it's just got 3 ingredients, some of which you might already have. Otherwise, they're available. They're definitely available online if they're not available at your grocery store. The first one is witch hazel with aloe. And witch hazel with aloe is really going to give a base for a spray that is cooling. I apologize for the chickens, but now this proves that I live on a farm. So, witch hazel with aloe gives this kind of skin-friendly base, and it's going to be combined with coconut oil, but liquid coconut oil specifically, because we want this spray to be able to be used no matter the temperature. And as everybody knows, coconut oil becomes solid when it gets chilly. So liquid coconut oil, and then the third ingredient is the ingredient, and that's turmeric essential oil. And I want to spend a little bit of time here talking about turmeric essential oil because it kind of blew my mind when I found out about it. Much like when you start to dive into the research about the health benefits of turmeric as something that humans can consume, it's such a heavy hitter for our health, our cognitive health, our physical health. But in terms of an essential oil for topical use, there's a 2018 paper titled Preventing Tick Attachment to Dogs Using Essential Oils that I'm referencing here. And the results of that paper, there's also some other research that is out there, but the results of this research showed that turmeric was equally, if not more, effective at repelling ticks than DEET, which is a popular non-organic chemical repellent. So turmeric essential oil, and it worked better than orange oil, which is also something that people sometimes use, and all the other oils that I mentioned earlier. So turmeric is the thing that you're going to use in this spray that's going to um, be the effective ingredient. It needs to be diluted, obviously, and it needs to get down to a 2.5% dilution. And as I mentioned, I'm going to put a recipe or a base recipe for how much of each you would use. I use about 7 tablespoons of witch hazel with aloe, which is 100 mils, with 2 tablespoons of liquid coconut oil, which is 30 mils. And then I add 50 drops or 2.5 mils of turmeric essential oil. And if you've ever made an essential oil spray, you'll know you need to shake it before you spray it because things do separate. But you spray it on your dog's coat and rub it over them. And if it's the height of tick season, I'll apply it a couple times a week. Caveat about turmeric, and spot test your dog. It can leave a yellow coloring. I have many color dogs, but if the dog is super white, it can leave a lovely golden hue that eventually washes off and is makes it totally a safe and useful preventative for flea and ticks. And I'm saying during spring because spring is really. And I'll just close with say enjoy and let me know how these two offerings work for you. And also, I'm gonna say put the disclaimer out there again that natural doesn't always mean appropriate for everybody, every animal, in every situation. Just like anything in the world, we should use things with care, and especially around young animals and young humans and around pregnant and elders. So, patch test is a nice way to see how these things work. And as I mentioned, with both of these things, avoid the eyes, avoid mucous membranes, and consult your veterinarian, consult your doctor, and have a wonderful spring, and have a lovely new moon. And cheers to this new series called the Herbal Almanac. I'm grateful for you guys. Take good